Hello and welcome, friends. Today we're going to be talking about something that we just posted an entire blog on, actually, that seems to be really popular in cyber news recently. And yes, these are fake CAPTCHA attacks. You know, when you visit a website and you're greeted by this authentication mechanism that basically says, click here to say you're not a robot. Well, I hate to tell you this, but threat actors have now started exploiting that to their benefit. I am joined today by our technical director of threat operations, Jason Rathbun. Hi, Jason. So let's talk about a little bit about these fake CAPTCHA attacks from the lens of the SOC. What are we seeing? How prevalent are they? And why do you think these have become a new popular tactic?
SOC has seen over 50 of these attacks just in the past few months. Really started to ramp up this year, starting in January, but we've seen it just continue to ramp up. This type of attack serves as another example of like the adversary's sophistication in social engineering and just different ways that they find to obtain footholds in target networks that they want to compromise. Unfortunately, I think that it's mainly due to how common like running into captions on the internet has become. With more and more people kind of using commercial VPNs, it also feels very familiar to them to see captchas. Even people who aren't using commercial VPNs, sometimes maybe they're on their cell phone, they'll run into captchas, right? Just in general on the internet, as more bots have been around and the increase of like AI automation and such, there's been a lot more like captchas that people just have to fill out during their day to day. So people are kind of conditioned to complete like all different variations of these captchas, right? The captcha's never really the same. So to them, even though this one is like new and different, it still kind of feels familiar to them,
Yeah.
especially to a non-technical user who's, I mean, they've probably never used the run option before. And they probably don't even have an understanding of what that run option does. Along with that, they even append like a comment to it. So when they put it into the run option, it adds to the realism because they see down there in quotes, it says like, I verify I am human.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure we'll get into it later. Some of the times also with watering holes, it can come from sites that they trust too. So they don't even know that they're doing it in the wrong area or being misled.
Okay, so we've got a user, they get some sort of phishing email, they visit a compromised website, they're prompted with the fake CAPTCHA that frankly looks really legitimate. And once they click, I'm not a robot, and the run option, then malicious code is executed and ran in the background.
Yep, yeah, it copies over the embedded code directly into into the like victim's clipboard, just making it easier for them, right? They don't even have to like select the code and copy it, so it doesn't really question it. It's just, hey, we're gonna give you the code, go ahead and run it. And a lot of the time, all they have to do is hit the Windows key and the R key, just two keys at the same time. Hit Control V again to paste in the code that they got, and then once they hit Enter, it starts the stages of the malware execution.
How are they convincing users to click on this? Because this feels still like, I mean, I've seen users do some crazy work in the
Yeah.
background who are not technical and still manage to get infected. But how are they convincing users to run this in the background?
Yeah, they give them very clear instructions, right? So after they click, it'll say, hey, we've copied the CAPTCHA for you. Go ahead and hit the Win and R key and then hit enter after you've pasted it in. And just, I think the clear like example of like how to do it. And then they also at the end put, and that'll bring you on to where you were trying to go, right? Like they want to get
Mm,
where they were trying to go. So that also is kind of leading into it is they feel like they need to do this in order to get to what they wanted to see or
right.
access.
And then when they're downloading, I guess we'll get into it a little bit more when they download that payload. We're seeing them download things like Luma Stealer, Sock Ghoulish, Net Support Rat, Async Rat, a ton of these variants of malware. And from what we're seeing in the 50 plus cases is Luma Stealer's kind of taken the lead as most popular for the bunch. We've written on this before in past blogs, but it does seem to be more prevalent in the news. So as many of you know, Luma Stealer is an information stealing based malware. They look for credentials, authentication mechanisms and browser extensions, crypto wallets, any information that's going to be valuable. And it's in many cases sold as a service. And it targets a lot of this information then to be later used in a chain of attacks. And what we've seen, especially with Luma Stealer, it's connected to a lot of ransomware operations. So, as you can imagine, once they're able to complete this process, they basically get to choose their next adventure path, which in many cases could be ransomware deployment. So, Jason, let's talk a little bit about one of the incidents that we actually feature in the blog, where essentially one of our clients' legitimate company website was compromised. It essentially created a watering hole attack in this WordPress site embedded with this fake CAPTCHA campaign. Any visitors to the site were then eventually led to download Luma Stealer as the most popular one. So from the analyst point of view, they're seeing this suspicious PowerShell usage as that initial detection. Can you tell us a little bit more of where they get from alert to the investigation that leads them to this campaign?
Yeah, certainly right. And it's definitely a very interesting incident seeing how they were able to compromise a WordPress site in the cloud, which doesn't, maybe it's not connected to the network, maybe they don't have a direct path from that WordPress site, or maybe they can only upload to it. But they used the WordPress site to host that CAPTCHA, which led to this user executing. In this scenario, we saw that it was using the live off the land binary PowerShell, which was using invoke web request, actually with the shorthand IWR, to download a PowerShell script. That PowerShell script is a PAS1 that's downloaded, so that executes in memory. The PowerShell script was hosted on just a general CDN, so you can't really get reliability based off of that because a lot of different things are hosted on a CDN. But that initial execution's main purpose is to download the first stage and execute it when the user does that command in the run key, or the run option, right? So a successful execution of that script then downloads the second stage, which was a zipped file, which was likely encrypted and then decrypted to bypass the new file being added onto the system from a different domain. The zip file then got extracted to the temp folder to kind of hide it out of user site, right? The script then kind of goes on to the third stage to check and make sure that everything like worked as intended. So checking to make sure that the malicious binary was extracted, checking to make sure that it was executed, and then it actually goes and sleeps. In this scenario, I believe it was roughly around 23 minutes. That's just for some defense evasion, right? In case anything's monitoring that process, it waits before it continues through the rest of the stages. After that, it actually goes ahead and clears everything out that it doesn't need anymore, so those prior stages, and it goes ahead and runs that final malicious payload. In this scenario, it was Luma Stealer. These malicious commands that they run can actually be seen in the registry key. It's under HKey current user, so HKCU, under software, Microsoft, then Windows, and then the current version of Explorer. And it's the run MRU key. We have seen them actually also clear this registry key afterwards, because what this key does is it showcases all the commands that have been done with that run option. So again, some of that defense evasion, in case someone comes in later and checks to see if they executed it, that option or entry is no longer there for the registry.
Where were we seeing this deletion of this registry key? So it's interesting. The script seems pretty sophisticated to it gets to the point where it deletes itself after it's been sleeping. And are we able to see all of those processes executing, even I'd even call it like anti-forensics that's occurring?
Yeah, so our analysts were able to see, one, where the user navigated, which was their own company website in this scenario. Unfortunately, it was hosted on a vulnerable version of WordPress. They were able to compromise and add that CAPTCHA that users would reach when they were browsing to it. So the analyst team saw that. They then see the execution sourcing from Explorer of the PowerShell. From there, they can even see the later stages. We responded very quickly, as we always do with these, right? We've been looking at MSHTA executions and PowerShell communications for a long time. So we didn't actually see what comes after that sleep. But from other scenarios where we've seen them utilizing the run key, that's where we see that deletion, right? But in this scenario, we reacted within minutes. So that 23-minute sleep where Luma Stealer comes in wasn't able to all the way go through.
Wow. So, let's talk about prevention because everybody wants to talk about that. It's everyone's favorite. What else can users do other than, we do enough security awareness? We have pop-up blockers, endpoint protection. We can inspect websites, copying the URL into OSINT search pages like VirusTotal or Census. But what else further could we do potentially to limit this type of threat?
Yeah, definitely. Prevention is key. Kind of moving up on the attack chain for sure. It's a good start. What you mentioned, right? User training is always important. If any user is interacting with a CAPTCHA and it tells them to open or run commands, that's never to be expected. You should never have to leave the sandbox that exists in your browser and execute code on your system to prove you're not a robot. But the usual user training is good, right? But obviously, it's not bulletproof. As adversaries over time find new ways to social engineer, there's still going to be tricking that user element to do different things. We typically see them kind of using these low bins, right? So in order to execute, they rely on a lot of these depending on what they're using to stage their malware. One of the ones that you could be safe blocking is MSHTA. It's not very common. A lot of the other ones, unfortunately, a lot of legitimate software relies on. But one of the best ways I think for this one is just going ahead and implementing group policy to disallow the run option entirely for users. So that when they're going through this and they're trying to do the CAPTCHA and they're trying to open up the actual part where they execute, nothing's happening. And then they get frustrated. They probably ask IT and then IT is going to see and be like, oh, this is bad, right? So yeah, I think the option itself is just removing the run menu from the start menu option. So you can set up like a group policy to force that on, at least on end workstations, right? For non-IT users or all.
Fantastic. Right. I feel like these are some of the things we should already be doing right away since we see a lot of malware execution be successful because of this. And users will attempt to Google how to run things before they even go to IT. So policies, controls, those tend to be a little bit more successful in the long run. Well, fantastic. It seems like this adversarial campaign is really hot right now. I appreciate the time to break it down. Definitely take a look, like and follow Blackpoint and all our social pages, but go take a look at our blog that was just released called The Rise of Fake CAPTCHA. The use case we just mentioned, but a lot of this breakdown that we mentioned is going to be deep dived into the technical details of the blog. So please take some time to go read that. And as always, stay vigilant.